Dr. Greg Steinberg, world-renowned sports psychologist, speaker, author, and TV personality, illustrates how the greatest athletes have mastered their game, then gives you hands-on tools so that you can master your world.
3,000 years ago, when the ancient Egyptians would mummify their bodies, they get rid of the brains, but they would keep the heart because they believed the heart was the essence of the person. Today, we've turned that thinking all around. When we talk about success or peak performance, we talk about the mind. We talk about mental toughness. We say things like outthinking and outsmarting your opponents to win. But I believe the ancient Egyptians had it right all along. The people who are most successful have captured the heart of a champion. They have guts. They have determination. They have courage. They have mastered their emotions. And tonight, we are going to discover how you can capture the heart of a champion. My favorite stories is about Muhammad Ali. And long before he was boxing champion of the world, long before he strode up those stairs shaking from Parkinson's to light the Olympic flame in Atlanta, he grew up very poor in Louisville. His mother could barely afford enough food, let alone toys like a bike. But Muhammad Ali saw this blue bike in the window, and he had to have the Schwinn. It had the nice bright handlebars and the seat. And he loved that blue bike, but he couldn't afford it. So all summer long, he worked at a grocery store boxing groceries. Excuse the pun. He finally had enough money to buy this blue bike. He gave the shopkeeper the money, rode all over Louisville, showing off to his friends and his family that Saturday, 8 hours. Came back home, next day parked his bike in front of the grocery store, made sure the lock was nice and tight, went to work, came out, someone stole his blue bike. He looked all over Louisville for his blue bike. He never found his blue bike, and he never found out who stole his blue bike. But we all know Muhammad Ali is a true champion. And what he did was he harnessed that negative energy into a positive. So every time he went in the ring, he'd point at his opponent and say, "You're the guy who stole my blue bike." It's not about sport. It's really about life. The principles that make athletes successful will make you successful. It's the same thing. And the obstacles that block performance will block your performance. They're virtually the same thing. And let me explain. Let's say you're a financial advisor. You have all these pressures working against you. You have quotas you got to get. You want to do well for your friends, for your family. You might not be feeling so well that day. And if you have none of the right ingredients, what happens is you crush under the pressure. Just like an athlete chokes under the pressure, you crush under the pressure. But what we are going to do today is talk about how you can be filled up with all the right ingredients. Because all those pressures are there. You have those quotas, you want to do well for your friends, for your family, you might not be feeling well that day. All those pressures are there. But if you have the right ingredients, you can stand tall under that pressure. And the other reason why I like doing this talk is because then I can drink my soda.
Any golfer will tell you that the grand game is a mental one, and Greg Steinberg is a PhD and associate professor of sports psychology at Austin Peay University. Go Governors, and he's the author of Mental Rules of Golf, and joins us now in the studio. Welcome to Headline News.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, hey, we love having you here. You did exhaustive research for this book, and one of the topics in your book, very interesting, talks about Annika's 54 vision. Tell us about that.
Well, that means that Annika believes every hole is birdieable. Okay. And if you birdie every hole, that's 18 under on a par 72, that'd be 54, right? Mm-hmm. The score 54. Mm-hmm. Well, if every hole is birdieable, that means when she's 6 or 7 under par, she's comfortable and she's in her comfort zone. And the problem is a lot of people, when they're under par, like 8, 9 under, they get out of their comfort zone and they get nervous. They have a couple blow-up holes and they ruin their score. But Annika can go low because she believes every hole's birdieable. And that's probably one of the main reasons why she's the only woman on the LPGA to shoot 59. And so I think what we need to do is we need to say it. And I like to do what I call a pitch back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, are you good? Not, ho, ho, hey, ho, ho. You have to say, I am great. But, hold on a second. You have to feel it from your toes to your head. What great means to you. Maybe it's a great salesperson, a great owner, a great manager, a great vendor. You have to feel it. Okay, so I'm going to say, are you good? And then you have to say, I'm great, in unison. Here we go. Are you good? Great. That's close. That's close. But, you know, I used to work with kayakers, and I remember doing some visualization with kayakers. And this one lady, she said, she was laying down and she was visualizing. She goes, I don't get it. I have to sit up, because when I sit up, that's how I kayak. So I think what we're going to do is, when I say, are you good, you have to stand up. And you have to say, I'm great. All right, here we go. Are you good? I'm great. Okay, that's really close. That's really close. Real close. But if you've ever watched TV, the most famous athlete is Tiger Woods. And when he makes a great putt, he does one of these. So I think I'm going to, just one more time, I'm going to say, are you good? And I want you to give me a Tiger fist pump. I'm great. Here we go. Are you good? I'm great. That was spectacular. But let me tell you why we did that. It's not because of my enjoyment, because I did enjoy that. It was great. But did you know your emotions are dictated by your actions? You're thinking about what you're doing, what you had to do at the office, and what you got to do tomorrow and all that. And then your children or your child or your son or your daughter comes and he or she talks to you, and you're just thinking about what your wife just said. And then you're thinking about what you have to do in the office. And we're always practicing being distracted. And then what happens is, when we totally have to focus, we can't, because we're practicing being distracted. So the key is, no matter what you're doing, if you're doing the dishes, if you are talking with your child, whatever it is, if you totally immerse yourself in the moment, then what happens is you're developing the skill of being in the moment. And so when you're working with that client, your mind doesn't wander. You are totally engaged in that moment. And when you're engaged, they notice that, and they see it, and they pick up on that. And when you're engaged, they're going to like you more. But if they think you're distracted, it's going to be hard to form that bond.
Now, if you could talk to her, what advice would you give Annika if she were to try this again?
Well, you know, the main reason why she did this is to raise her game, you know, to test her skills. She took a big risk, and I think she did wonderful. The one thing that I would tell her is, she said she was so nervous the entire time. And I think what she needs to do is maybe focus on reducing those nerves, you know, maybe practicing her relaxation skills and really being able to train her body to combat the nerves she faced. I don't know if you're familiar with Jack Nicklaus, but that's the pre-Tiger Woods. And there's a story where he's doing a seminar like this, and he says, I've never three-putted the last hole of a golf tournament. And I don't know if you're familiar with golf, but when you get on the green, you want a two-putt or one-putt. But three-putting's terrible for golfers. So he says, I've never three-putted the last hole of a tournament. This guy raised his hand, and he says, Jack, I saw you last week on TV. You three-putted that last hole. And Jack Nicklaus says, I've never three-putted the last hole of a tournament. And the guy raised his hand, and he goes, Jack, I saw you. I videotaped it. I'm going to send you the tape. And Jack Nicklaus says, I've never three-putted the last hole of a golf tournament. Because he's trained his brain never to bring that baggage. It's like, you know, a ton of bricks. He's walking with that brick every time to the next hole. If he's remember, he three-putted the last hole of the tournament. And so you entice positive events with a positive brain, and you entice negative events with a negative brain. And one of my favorite stories is the little girl driving with her mother. And she says, Mommy, where are all the jerks and losers today? And the mother says, oh, they only come out when your dad's driving.